to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
but that's not going to happen. Instead, we'll travel vicariously by inviting a guest to share their unique travel stories with us.
Or at least that's what we used to do on this podcast. Although we don't regularly make episodes anymore, we still want to share our travel adventures with each other.
And we might as well record our conversation and share it with you.
Yippee!
This is episode 172.
Today, Ryan and I are both talking about our spring break trips. Woo!
Yes!
Yeah.
Yay, spring break! We went
Spring
to
break.
Mexico and went crazy!
Woo!
No. Neither of us
didn't.
did that.
But Ryan, we get to travel again, and we get to travel on spring
Yes.
breaks again, and it's
Yes.
so lovely.
It is
Yeah.
lovely. It is lovely. Yes. And, spring break means things like, no work.
Yay! I mean, I had to take time off of work, but it did mean no work, so that was nice. And then you just
Right, and then-
naturally, in theory, don't have work.
Right, except I
Yeah.
brought grading with me, actually.
Oh, good. Okay. And was that like a good thing, or was that like a bummer thing? Like, was that your plan?
Well, so yes, sort of. I mean, I intentionally so I had like makeup quizzes and retake quizzes that needed to get graded. And it had to get done over spring break anyway. And I was
Okay.
like, well, I'm just going to be sitting on a plane. So I might as well just do it while I'm sitting on the plane because that's a much better use of my time.
Okay. And was that fine for you? Like, because you don't like the plane anyway,
Yeah.
right?
No, no, I don't like do you like the plane? Does
Yeah.
anybody like flying on a plane?
I do. I love being on an airplane.
What? Like when you're in first class or business class. That's what you mean, right? Because that I understand.
Any class, any of them, all the classes.
What?
I
I don't
just like all my
understand,
classes.
Cheryl. What do you mean
Yes.
you like it?
Okay, Ryan, this
You're
is really
sitting
funny.
there, you're stuck, and you're like staring forward next to people.
Okay. This is really funny because we had an episode come out recently, right?
Mhm.
Of this podcast. And you were sharing that you're just like, as time goes on,
Mhm.
less and less enjoying like the process of travel. Like you like
Yeah.
being on the trip. And when you're on the trip, you're like, okay, that actually was worth it. But like the process getting there is just
Yep.
like,
And a lot of the prep and all of the
Mhm, yeah.
it's just a
and
lot
so
of
then
work.
my sisters, who are both listeners,
Mhm.
started this whole text conversation about this topic because of our podcast, because you shared that.
Okay.
And my sister Katie, I think they both agree with you. Katie brought it up though. She was like, I totally agree with Ryan. Like, not a fun process, ends up being worth it, but like
Mhm.
not great. And then she asked me, and I still haven't had time to respond. So maybe this is my response to Katie's text.
You're welcome, Katie.
but because I was traveling when she sent that, and I just like could not
Yeah.
get into like a long text conversation in that moment. But I was like, I am interested in this topic and want to talk about it, because she was like, Cheryl, I just picture you being like Cinderella at the airport, and you're just like happy and good. And I was like, I mean, pretty much.
I was gonna say, yeah, that sounds accurate to me.
Yeah, like I like being at an airport. I
Oh,
like being
that's
on an
right, I
airplane
forgot.
more than I
No.
like being at an airport, but I do like being at an airport.
No.
I like being at an airport even early to just have like hangout time.
I feel like we've had this conversation before because
Mhm.
I do not like airports. And actually, this is something where Kyle and I, because we've traveled together for my spring break trip, and he's actually very similar to me, which was great because
Oh,
he's the
cool.
like come at the last minute he's even more last minute as far as like getting on the plane. He wants
Okay.
to be the last person on the plane, which that's
Oh.
a little stressful for me to be the last person on the plane. Like
Yeah.
I want to follow the rules. I want to board when it's my boarding
With
group
your
because that's
boarding
when I'm
group.
supposed to board,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
he's like, nope, it doesn't matter. I'll just be at the end. So I'm not quite like that, but we both were like, I think we got to the airport like an hour before our flight was supposed to leave.
Oh, that's like pre 9/11 timing for
Yeah.
me, at
Yeah.
least. Yeah.
And that's my preference most of the time, which that does stress a lot of people out. That's not
Yeah.
normal for most people,
Yeah.
but it's because
Yeah.
I don't want to just sit in an airport. I do not enjoy just sitting and like you don't do anything. You don't go anywhere. You're not,
Mm.
yeah. But you like the airport.
I like it. I like the airport. Um, I think, okay, first of all, I like all of these things because they're associated with travel. That is the number
Mm,
one reason. I think that's the big thing is it's all because of travel. And I love
okay.
travel and I love just going places so much
Mm-hmm.
that even the process of going to that place is really happy for me.
Because of
Um,
what it means and signifies.
yes. And so it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going somewhere. Like, and that's a
Yeah.
great thing for me. I love getting out and just like
Mm-hmm.
being in different places and all that stuff. And so
And you like being
that's
around lots of people too. You like just the energy and the commotion with people being around.
sometimes I do like eating out or things like that are really fun for that. I don't like love a crowd, but I don't get stressed by a crowd either.
Yeah.
Um, but then the part I love specifically about airplane, but even waiting for my plane at the airport, really the airplane is I am someone who I always feel like I need to be doing a lot. I always feel like I need to be productive. It is hard for
Mm-hmm.
me an evening at home to relax because I'm like,
Mm,
oh, but really I should be working on this and this and this and this. And that's why even
mm-hmm.
when I've house sat in the past, it's been incredibly freeing because it's like in someone else's home, I don't have that same pressure I put
Mm,
on myself that
yeah.
I do in my own home. Um,
Yeah.
so there's something about being on an airplane where it's like I don't my whole job right now is just to sit. That's all that's expected of me. Like there's other than if I wanted to like get stuff done on a computer, which I don't even bring. I guess I could
Mm-hmm.
go through emails on my phone or something, but that doesn't even occur to me or feel like a responsibility in that moment. It feels like my
Mm-hmm.
responsibility is to relax. And it's very hard for me to get
Mm,
to that place on my own in my everyday life. And so
yeah.
I feel like I'm in this little cocoon where like no one needs me, no one's trying to reach me, and if they are, I won't know about it. And it just
Mm-hmm.
feels like literally it feels like pausing time and just being able to be calm and like watch
Mm,
entertainment or zone out for a little bit and everything. And so um and then ending up in like an exciting adventure and the next trip I'm on
yeah.
and everything. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
yeah, I really like it. But even in an airport, it's just like, and I think I go there so early because I do want the little stress and I don't like to feel rushed. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
being there early is just like, I'm just good. And like, I'm used to all the things that are required of me at an airport. I know like none of it's like a weird new thing exactly. And so it's just like you just go
Mm-hmm.
through and do your thing and you can just chill and maybe like go get a coffee or like it feels like this fun little time and everything.
Yeah.
And I know that's weird too. Like I think that's way, way less normal. And then yeah, last year, Daryl and I got to take first class for a trip that we did not pay for
Oh,
ourselves.
that is a totally different story.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
talking about
Yes.
first class, like on a domestic flight, or business class on an international
Uh-huh.
flight. I have a very different feeling about that experience on a
Sure.
plane.
Sure. But for me who already loves it,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You must have
oh
been
my
in
gosh.
heaven.
And then I was like, they're just gonna bring me some scotch in a real glass for free. I mean, not for free, you bought the ticket, but like, oh my gosh, like that was and just like all the room and yeah. And I like traveling, I like flying alone, but it's also fun to like fly with my husband because then I can like lean on the person next to me without it being like it's weird that I'm
Mm,
leaning on the person next to me. Flying
Hmm.
with Jack last summer was a blast because the three of us got one row and he was so happy and really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I like these days that you can even like pre-order a little snack or meal because then I'm like, I don't have to
Hmm.
like think about food. It all can just be like planned out for me and just like appear in front of me.
Yeah.
I love it all. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I'm kind of a weirdo like that. But I like packing. I like my packing list. I like all of that stuff. I like getting my house ready and all clean before a trip. That feels like I'm like being very successful in checking things off lists that I can be like, I'm leaving this clean home. And when I come back, I'm going to come back to a clean home. And that's like my favorite. It's just like the only laundry I have to do is from my trip because everything else is already taken care of. Like
Hmm.
all that stuff. And I love home. So I love coming home too. So even the process of traveling back home is like, yay, I'm so happy to be back home now. So yeah, it is something that just really makes me happy in a lot of different ways. So
Yep.
yeah, weirdo. So you flew.
I did. I flew.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we should real quick just give an overview of where we went for
Yes.
spring break and like sort of what the purpose of our trips were.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So where did you fly to?
I went to Texas. I went
Okay.
to Austin, and then we were also in Houston, and we
All
went
right.
to see the total solar eclipse.
Oh my gosh, you went on another science trip.
Yes, I did, but this
Oh
one
my
without
goodness.
students.
Ah, that's
And
lovely.
which trip did you do?
I took a road trip, so no flying was involved on this trip
Mm-hmm.
with my husband and my 10-year-old stepson. And
Mm-hmm.
we went down to California, kind of like several places in California, which I can get into the details of, but did like left on a Friday night, came back the following Sunday night. So like maxed out on taking 5 days off of work and Jack having a week for spring break, like took our
Yeah,
total amount of time that we could essentially
yeah.
for that because it
And
was
it
a
was
road
the
trip.
same week,
It was
right?
the
That you
same
had
week
and I
you and I
had.
were
So we
gone.
were
Yeah.
both traveling at the same
I
time.
know. Our podcast went on the road all together as buddies. It was so cute. And then I remember you telling me before you left that you did rent a car on this trip when you got to your destination and you were very excited.
Yes. Yes. Well, technically we rented two different cars, but we used Turo, which I think you had said you've used before, right?
Just for spring training on our
Oh, that's
training
right.
trip, we used
That's
it.
what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah, this was
Hmm.
the first time I'd used it as well, but we used it so that we could rent a Tesla Model 3. So
Okay.
we drove a Tesla for like 4 days.
Fun. Very cool. And
Yes.
we rented a car for our road trip because we didn't want
Yeah.
to put miles on our car.
Okay.
And if we were originally thinking of flying down to Southern California and then we were going to rent a
Yeah.
car anyway, and then
Yeah.
tickets were just like it was spring break prices. And so
Yeah.
we were like, you know what? This is going to become a road trip now. But we're like, well, we were planning on renting a car anyway. And it was like 300 or so bucks. And we rented an electric car. And so we got to live that
Oh,
electric car lifestyle
now interesting.
as
You
well.
rented an electric car and did a road trip,
Yeah, I was
like a
worried.
1,000 mile road trip.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we did about 2,500 miles total on this.
Wow.
And it was Daryl's decision. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, are you sure about this? And he was like, it's gonna be fine. And I was like, okay. And so the reality of it was on our driving days, they were definitely longer because of
Yeah.
charging. Finding charging stations was no problem, and finding speedy ones was no problem. Those apps and everything are so helpful, and you can find really
What
fast
what
ones.
what car did you
It's called a
rent?
Polestar,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Polestar.
yeah. So that's also a fancy one.
Oh, it was fancy. Oh my gosh, the horsepower was so good. Um, it was so fun. It was really fun to drive. And so it was actually fun to
Yeah.
be like in it for a while and everything on our
Yeah.
trip. Um, and even the whole like dashboard system was really cool. All of it was great. Um,
Yeah.
so we mainly used the Electrify America app and
Okay.
it was
On your
really
phone,
on our phone. But
not on the
then, but
car.
then when we connected to Google Maps on the car, Google knew what car we were driving because we told it, I think. And it
Okay.
knew it was an electric car, and Google Maps knew our percentage of charge, and it would tell us when it thought we should do all of our charging stops.
Oh, Google Maps told you.
Yes. And it would
Oh,
say
that's
like,
cool.
yes. So we'd put in our destination for the day, and then it would add like 2 or 3 charging stops, but you could edit them. And it would say, it would show you with each charging stops what projected percentage you were going to be at there. So if you wanted to modify them, you could still see like, are we going to be comfortable with like
Yeah.
our battery percentage when we get to these different stops? And then it was a fun, because I
Oh,
like the
cool.
Google Maps challenge, personal challenge of like, can I beat the time a little bit that it's recommending or whatever.
Uh-huh.
This was a new fun challenge of, can I beat the percentage of like, can I drive more efficiently
Efficiently. Yeah, yeah.
than the
Yeah.
battery percentage that it's projecting? And usually I could, which was very fun. But it was also fun knowing it was accurate because you weren't nervous. Because
Mm.
like you said, we drove a lot of distance. So our stops were longer and a little more frequent.
So like 20 to
Well,
30 minutes longer
yeah.
or
Yeah, something
yeah.
like that. But we were driving with a 10-year-old. And so getting out and
Yeah.
stretching our legs actually was also good for us. Like, on
Yeah.
those, I don't do that myself. I'll just go and then be
Yeah.
exhausted. So it meant we got to our destinations a little later, but also it was really nice, like getting out or like stopping and like sitting down for lunch or things like that
Yeah.
was really nice. So we really enjoyed that aspect. And then we did calculate our total spending and did it against like projected gas.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say we saved like $50. So like not much. I think they were like
Okay.
fairly comparable. So I was reflecting on it at the end and I was like, I think if I had to do that trip again, I would do gas. Like, I don't think I would do an electric car again. But
Yeah.
also, it was fun being like, I would buy this car.
Yeah.
And so, or a car like
Yeah.
it. And so I enjoyed that, just getting to like experience that for a while. How was your Tesla experience?
So it was interesting. It's similar to what you said with the Polestar. Oh my gosh, the torque and the acceleration is so fun. Just being able to just go, like that part is really cool. Um, the Tesla itself has very few physical buttons, and I'm not a huge fan of that. It
Okay.
wasn't as bad as I thought it would be
Okay.
because I already knew that, and I had already been like, I don't know, but like let's give it a try. And it wasn't. It was easier to navigate than I thought it was. There was definitely a learning curve first driving the car because so many things are in menus on the one screen
Mm,
and finding things and what does this mean and how does this work and all that stuff, which was weird. So like one example, the windshield wipers. So there's a button, you can push the button and it will like it's on one of the stalks, kind of like the blink. It's the same one as the blinker. You push a
okay.
button on the side of it and then it will turn on the windshield wipers, but then there's no like dial or thing to rotate to change the speed. And so it pops up on the screen and then you can use a little, like what are those little wheels on your steering wheel? Have you ever seen those on cars before? It's
Oh,
like a
okay.
scroll wheel or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so you can like bump it over to
Mm,
like level 1, level 2, level 3, or it had auto where it would like auto sense and adjust the speed. It just
mhm.
wasn't, I mean, we both live in the Seattle area, so
Yeah.
we are very experienced when it comes to
Yes.
rain and
Yes.
all the varying levels. So I'm very picky about what my windshield wipers do and when.
Oh my gosh, same. Same. My
And
car
so
does
it,
have a sensor that actually does a very good job, like my
oh,
own
okay.
car. And I
Yeah.
love that a lot, especially in
Yeah.
Seattle. It's so nice.
Yeah. And sometimes it did okay, and then sometimes it just wasn't. And so I got frustrated with
Mm,
it. But like that was annoying because I couldn't just move it. I had to hit the button and then I had to look at the screen and I had to like move the thing over and then look back up at the what the
mm,
windshield wipers were doing, so there were some things like
yeah.
that I didn't love.
Yeah.
Also, this particular model that we had a yoke instead of a steering wheel.
Oh,
Do you know what that
so that
means?
limits where you can even put your hands then.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like that rectangle. And
Yeah.
then it's I got used to it, but turning is weird because you can't do like hand over hand when you turn
Oh,
because
yeah.
you turn and it's like now it's this like tall tower and there's no other place for your other hand. So it was very weird.
Wow, that's an
And
adjustment for sure.
when I first got in, it would hit my leg when it turned.
Oh,
because
that's
it's
so
so
funny.
oblong. And
Yeah.
so I later figured out how to, because I'd adjusted the seat and stuff and it still didn't
Mm,
matter. I later figured out I could actually adjust the steering wheel like forward, like closer to me, and that moved it away from my leg. And so that helped.
interesting.
So there were some things like
Yeah.
that. We It was really fun. I was actually thinking about this today as I was walking out to my car from work. I think what I determined is I would love an electric vehicle, but I don't think that vehicle is the one
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
would be happy with.
Yeah.
I think there's enough other electric vehicles out there. And we did have to do some charging. It was the best part was like at the Airbnb, we just plugged it into the wall. And so whenever it was
Yeah.
sitting in the garage, it was just charging. And so the whole
Yes.
time we had the Airbnb, we didn't have to go anywhere and charge anything because we weren't driving super far. We weren't doing a road trip like you.
Yeah.
And we had just that trickle charge that did what we needed it to do. On the day of the eclipse, we ended up doing a lot more driving and we did have to go to a supercharger. But even that, like, well, I'll tell you more about the supercharger when we talk about the whole adventure.
When we talk about your super eclipse,
Yeah,
is a super eclipse a
exactly.
thing though in science?
Not that I
Because
know
it
of.
should
I've never
be.
heard of it.
That's where several planets line up at the same time as our eclipse. That's a super eclipse. I've decided.
Okay.
Ryan, this is not our science podcast. It's fine. I can say statements like that.
You can say whatever you want. That's fine. It's fine.
um cool. Yeah. So let's dive in though. I want to hear
Yeah.
about your trip.
Hmm.
So you kind of already gave us an overview that you went to Austin and then Houston. Your
Yep.
purpose primarily was the eclipse, but then some other things too. You went
No,
with your
the
friend
whole reason we
Kyle.
did the trip was for the total solar eclipse. Like that was
Okay.
the reason.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we picked Austin, Texas because I have some friends that moved there like a year and a half ago. So I was like, hey, I could go see them. They could come join us for the eclipse. So that's why I picked Austin of anywhere along the path of totality. And then while we were there, I was like, well, we're not that far from NASA. So we should also go to the Space
Oh.
Center in Houston. So that's why we went to Houston.
And did you fly or drive to Houston?
We drove to Houston.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
we flew. So we flew from Seattle to Austin. We
Mm-hmm.
did all of our stuff in Austin. That's why we had two rental cars because the Turo, we were going to fly out of Houston, so we didn't want to have to drive the
Yeah.
Turo back or pay for that or whatever. It was just easier with our standard rental car to return it at the airport with everybody else, and the big giant company
Got it.
could take care
Yeah.
of that. So
Cool. Nice. So okay, let's talk about the eclipse.
okay.
What time of day was it?
It was the eclipse started at just after 12:15 in the afternoon,
Oh,
and
that's great.
totality was just about 1:30, and then
Okay.
the whole thing ended at about 3.
And I know that you went to an eclipse in Oregon a few years ago.
Yes.
And in that case, that was like the best spot to see them, or was it a similar situation to this of like there were several places and that
Yeah,
was one
that
of them?
Yep, that was in 2017, and that one was at the time they called it the Great American Eclipse, and then that's what they were calling this one too. But so it went kind of like northwest down to southeast was kind of the path across the
Okay.
US.
Got
And it
it.
was south of us here in Washington State, the path of totality, but it went across Oregon. So me and my friend Kyle and my friend Ian, and now I'm
I
trying
think
to
my
figure.
sister went on that one, didn't she?
Yep. Your sister came. Yep, your sister and her husband came. I was like, I feel like there was somebody else, but it was just the three of us who drove down, and we met them down in Bend,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
we drove up to the Painted Hills to actually see the actual total solar eclipse. So we
Okay.
saw that one, and and then this one was going from southwest up to northeast. So it's actually
Okay.
it was also North America, but it went like across Mexico and then up across Texas and then across those other states that, because I don't live on that side of the country, I don't remember exactly what they all are, but like the Midwest, and then across like northern New York and across Maine and then technically a little part of Canada up there as well. So it kind of went so the two of them almost made an X
That's so
if you were to do the
interesting.
two paths.
Yeah. Can I tell you
Yeah.
something before you continue, though?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't have the trip report of this yet, but one of my coworkers went to see the eclipse and
Yeah.
started in Texas. And her husband's like super into this stuff, she was saying. They
Yeah.
took a flight that
Oh, were they on one
followed.
of the flights?
Yes. Do you know about this?
I saw there were, I think, two different, I think Delta was doing one and Southwest was doing
I
one,
think she
I
did the
think.
Delta one. And so
Yeah.
it's like the path of totality flight, and you're like on an
Yeah.
airplane during that time. And I
Yeah.
need to ask her how it was, because I'm just picturing it being such a letdown, because airplanes don't have sunroofs.
No,
So
they don't.
like I'm just trying to picture like what's the cool part about I like the concept. I'm obsessed with. I think that's such a cool. It reminds me of
Yeah.
going to Four Corners and being like, oh my gosh, I'm in 4 states at once. Like it feels like that.
Yeah.
And but
Yeah.
then the reality of it, I need to ask her, like, so was it cool? Like, was the flight interesting? Could you see anything out your little window? Like, I need details from her. So I will definitely have to tell you more about that. But anyway, it was fun because she told me about that. And I was like, oh my gosh, my friend Ryan's going down there and gonna see it too. So in Austin, was it just like if you're in somewhere in Austin, you're gonna get a good view, or was it like pretty specific locations that you were gonna get that
So
perfect view?
yes and no. It's a little bit of both. The way it works is, and I'm just for you, I'm going to show you a picture because I know it'll make more sense. And then maybe you can help me explain it a little bit.
Okay, so I'm seeing a map of the US, Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
tiny bit of Canada,
Yep.
and I'm seeing this
So,
red dotted line,
mm-hmm.
and
So
that's
the
your
path of
totality.
totality is the place where the sun is totally blocked, like 100% blocked, and that's the really cool part. So this you'll see there's kind of this dotted line going
Yeah.
down. That's basically that's the center of the shadow of the moon. And so that's where you're going to get the longest amount of totality. The thickest red on either side of that dotted line, that whole thing is the path of totality. So as long as you're somewhere in that section, you will see the total solar eclipse. In case anyone's interested, like, how do I find this? I'm on timeanddate.com is the website that I use. And then they have sun, moon, and space, and then they have an eclipses section. It's great. It has interactive maps. It's wonderful.
I had no idea that this aspect was on timeanddate.com. That's really cool.
Oh, have you been to this website before?
Just for, I don't know for other things, but just about like clocks themselves,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. It's a great website.
Oh, you
So-
know what? I've used it for historical weather when I've had to do stuff for work where we've had to look up like what was the temperature at this time in this city on this date or whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing you can do is you can click on a particular place and then it'll give you a little pin. It'll tell you how much of the sun is eclipsed and how long totality is. So for example, in like downtown Austin, the totality was 1 minute and 46 seconds.
cool.
I got an Airbnb in a town that is outside of Austin, almost an hour north, called Killeen, because that had 4 minutes and 18 seconds of totality
Oh.
because it's so much closer to that center line.
Oh, it's much closer to that red dotted line than Austin is.
Yes. Yes. It's way, way, way closer. And that's where I could find an Airbnb because there's other places that are directly along that line, but they are tiny little towns.
Okay,
And there were
yeah.
no Airbnbs or anything like that when I was looking to try and book. My whole goal when I got the Airbnb was to be in the path of totality so that I didn't have to drive anywhere. We could just go outside, look, enjoy it, be chill all day.
I love that.
So did I. I loved the idea of that anyway.
Oh no. Oh no.
That is
Ryan.
not what happened.
Oh no. What happened?
Because I don't know if you were listening to any of the weather reports, but across the country, along the entire path of totality, there were off and on clouds on that
Are you
day.
serious?
Yep.
That sucks.
Yep. And so where we were, was predicted, I think, 56% cloud cover.
No.
Yes. And the day before, it was like patchy clouds and whatever. So I was like, well, what do we do? So the morning of the eclipse was that Monday morning, April 8th. The morning of the eclipse, we're checking apps, we're checking websites, we're looking at things, and we discovered that just a little bit farther north and west, there was about a 30% chance of cloud cover. And we're
Okay.
like, well, 30% is still not zero, which is the number we wanted,
Yes.
but it's way better than 50.
Yes. Absolutely.
So we opted to get in the car and start driving.
Okay.
And my thing was, okay, we are, and I'll zoom this out here, no matter we were going to drive up in this area, we were staying in the path of totality the whole time. Nowhere that we were driving would take us out of the path of totality. So it's not
Okay.
like, ooh, we're driving out and then we might not be in it if we get stuck
Yep.
because there's traffic or anything like
Yep.
that. If we got stuck, we would pull over to the side
Pull
of the
over.
road and we would watch it there. I was like,
Yep.
so it was hard to make decisions. Kyle's very good at making decisions when things
That's
are
good.
stressful,
Good.
which is great.
That's good in a travel buddy.
It is. We hopped in the car, started driving down these, they're called farm to market roads.
Duh.
Seriously,
Are these
that's
like
like what
dirt
they're
roads?
one of them that we were on was, but most
Okay.
of them were not, but they were like definitely back roads, weird. Yeah.
Oh, funny.
It took us all throughout here, but like, let me see if I can find yep, that's the one. Here we go. And so we went to Avant.
Oh, fancy.
We found Avant. As one place, we drove through, very tiny little town. We saw a few people in like parking lots and things, but we were like, well, the clouds look maybe okay, but maybe not. And we decided we were going to continue to head north to a little town called Hamilton, which was a little
Okay.
bit bigger than Avant. But we were like, well, if we'll check it out and see, because we can always double back because we have to come back anyway. So if we get there
Yeah.
and we're like, that's not going to work, we can drive back and then we can stop in Avant. Well, a couple of things happened as we were doing that. One is on the way from Avant to Hamilton, there was a major accident on this
Oh,
two-lane
no.
highway.
What?
And I didn't see it. I don't know what happened, but it must have happened like maybe 15 minutes before we came on it.
Oh,
Because we
gosh.
saw a cop car like whoosh, whiz past
Okay.
us, like up the highway. And then when we got there were people like flagging people and waving you around. And it was like they were still figuring out how do we reroute you around this accident.
Oh, no.
And I didn't see it. There were people on the side, but I didn't see any blood. People seemed to be okay. But there was a giant engine in the middle of the road.
What?
Like, I don't know how it got there. There was no other car around it, but it was huge. It looked like it was like from a truck or something.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I have no idea. And when I talked to the gal who was sort of waving us through, I was like, yeah. So she's like, well, we're going to send you on this little side farm road. And that's where we were in the dirt road. We'll send you around here. And I was like, okay, but like, how do we get back? Because at this point I was like, we might be turning around and coming back still.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be clear in like 2-3 hours. And in my head, I was like, yeah, but I might want to turn around and come back in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to work for
Yeah.
me. So that was stressful. And then the other thing was we were looking at battery and we're like, okay, we have enough battery to get to Hamilton. But because of how far it was, we were not going to have enough battery to get back.
Oh,
And so it was like, okay, we're going to need to charge somewhere. And now we're out in the middle of nowhere. How do we
Yeah.
do this?
Yep.
And Hamilton isn't super far from Waco. It's closer to Waco than it is to Austin.
Okay.
And so
yeah.
we're like, well, if we have to, we can drive over to Waco because Waco will probably have a supercharger.
Yeah.
And then we just pulled up the map for superchargers. Guess what? Hamilton had a supercharger.
Amazing. They're all
It
over
really
the place.
was.
Yeah.
In the randomest places because it's
Yeah.
a small little town. So we just went to the supercharger, we plugged in, we charged, and as I was sitting there, I was like, we can watch it from here. We can watch it from here. So Ian found a little park, all the different groups of people kind of met up in Hamilton, and then the clouds parted.
The
Like
clouds
God answered all my
parted.
prayers, and we got to
Aw.
see the eclipse. We got to see
Ryan,
the
I'm so
eclipse,
happy for
and
you.
oh my gosh, me too. And Cheryl, it was amazing.
Really?
And oh my gosh, I've seen three now.
Okay.
This was the best one of the three that I've seen.
Really? Why?
Yes. Great question. One, totality was longer. It was just shy of
Oh,
4 minutes.
was it like nighttime?
Sort of, kind
Like
of.
weird,
Well, I guess I'm
weird,
still.
not nighttime, nighttime?
Yeah, it's like
Like
dusk, kind
dusk?
of.
Okay.
I'll show you some pictures here real quick. Here's sort of a picture of kind of what it looked like.
Oh, it looks like sunset, but did it look
Yeah,
like that in all directions?
yes. Here's the
Ooh, trippy.
video that I took of like actually 360. So during totality. So you can see
It
like
looks
kind
like
of the
the
little
sun is
park.
setting over all of the horizons.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so
So like
cool.
it's darker than like right at sunset, you know, but it's not totally dark. It doesn't
Yeah,
get totally dark, but it's
yeah,
definitely noticeable.
that's so
Um,
cool.
it was, oh, Cheryl, it was so cool. Here's
I
a
love
picture I
that.
took with my telescope.
Oh, that's so cool.
Isn't that
That looks
cool?
awesome. You just have like this dark, dark, dark circle and then just like illuminated from behind.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then there's those prominences. I don't know if you can see the
Yes.
red that's
Yeah.
there. The kind of like solar flares. They're technically a little bit different, but and they were
Cool.
so big that you could see them with your eyes without looking through the telescope. Now you couldn't tell what they were, but they're like little
You could
red
see them.
spots. Yeah. Yeah, it was
That's really
crazy.
cool.
It was
So
so cool.
when you went to Australia for it, was that when it was cloudy?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. And so you're like, are you kidding me? I flew for an eclipse again and we're about to have
Yep.
another cloudy eclipse.
Yep.
I'm so
Yep.
glad you didn't though. That's
I
so
am too.
great.
I'm so thankful. I'm
Yeah,
so thankful.
that's so cool.
It was great. I loved it. So part of what made it better was the totality was longer. So that part was cool. But
Mm,
also, and again, I don't know if this is in my head or not, but both Ian and Kyle, who were also at the 2017 eclipse, agreed with me. It looked bigger.
huh.
Like the moon itself looked bigger than it did last time. I don't know if the moon is actually
Interesting.
closer to the Earth this time than it was then. Like that's possible. It could be. I keep forgetting to look it up. But it looked bigger and it was just even more impressive. It was so cool. If you've never seen one, you've got to. You've got to at some point in your life travel, go where you need to go to see it. We've already decided the next one that we're going to go see. So if you want to come,
Where is
Cheryl,
it? Where?
2027, Egypt.
Are you kidding me?
Uh-uh.
Oh,
Because I've never been to Egypt.
yeah.
So
Wow.
it's in Luxor, like that center line.
Wow.
And here's the other thing: 6 minutes of totality.
Ooh.
It's the longest one in like 150 years or
Oh
something
my
like that.
gosh. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Wow. That's exciting.
yeah. Now whether I actually
Dang.
end up going and doing that, I don't know.
Yes, but
That's
that's your goal.
that's the dream right now.
Yes.
Is okay. What's the next one?
I mean,
Well,
enough time to plan.
it
Unless we
is.
get another
Yeah.
global pandemic or something wild, so.
Don't you dare. I don't
Cool.
think anybody
So,
wants that again.
what else happened on this trip? Do you have other highlights or other things
Yeah.
you want to like talk about?
The big thing really, well, for me, I got to spend time with my friends in Austin, which was really
Mm,
cool. I got to connect with them and see them and catch up, and like that part was really cool. That doesn't make very good podcasting though. The other big thing we did though was we went to NASA. We went to the Space Center in Houston, and that was
okay.
really cool. It was different than I expected, but it was also really cool. It was different in that you and I have talked about museums on this podcast before and my
Yes.
feeling around museums. And it was interesting. You can tell that the Space Center has been around for a long time
Mhm.
and that some exhibits are like 20 years old
Do
because
some of
some
them
of the
say that Pluto's a planet?
no, I didn't see anyone
Oh,
said
okay.
Pluto's the planet.
I
I'm
was trying to
sorry.
think of it. I was trying to think of an example off the top of my head of outdated information
Yeah.
about space, and that
Well,
was the
it was
first one I came
talking
up
about, yeah.
with.
Well, one of the things was still talking about like when the space shuttles end their like run or whatever. I was like, well, the space shuttles
Oh.
haven't been flying for like at least a decade at this point, I
Oh,
think.
interesting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so stuff was like older and more just less visually engaging. And there were other sections like our missions to Mars and the Artemis and stuff that you can tell is more modern and vibrant and more visual and things like that. So that part was interesting. Um, the really cool thing we got to do though that I made sure to do ahead of time so that because it sells out, is we got to go to Mission Control, the actual
Cool.
mission control room where they
Ooh.
did all the Apollo missions. So that's where they
The
did
Houston We Have a
Apollo.
Problem room?
Yes,
Cool.
yes, because
That's
they
very
did Apollo
cool.
11 when they landed on the moon, but also Apollo 13
Mm,
was in that actual room. So we got to
wow.
go like onto their like campus and stuff. Obviously not wherever we wanted, but we got to go, and then they took us into the room. We sat in the seats where like the family would sit and like watch. That's where we
Oh
got to
my
sit,
gosh.
and they've restored it. So it's not like original in the sense of like they haven't ever touched it, but they have restored it to what it was. They had all of the things on the monitors that were there. They had
Whoa.
clothes like from that time period. They had like cigarette butts sitting on the
Oh my
things
gosh.
or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a really cool experience to be able to see like where they actually did all of that stuff, because
That's
that's
really cool.
super crazy. Yeah,
Oh, I love that.
yeah, that was really fun.
Wow.
The one other thing that was really cool was we went to what they call Rocket City, which is where they have a bunch of like actual rockets, and they have the Saturn V rocket. I don't know if you've ever
Whoa.
seen it.
I've heard its name.
Okay. It's the one that had the lunar missions on the top. It's the really, really tall, long, and narrow one.
Okay.
Um, Here I can
So is it like what I picture when I picture a rocket? Then
probably
like a child's drawing of a rocket.
more or less, yes.
Okay.
Here's what it looks like on the side of, it's not the actual rocket, but this is like the image of it on the side of the building that
Oh
it's
my gosh,
tested
that's
in.
adorable. Why is it
So
so
it's actually,
cute?
I don't know, but it's actually in that building. And the thing that's
Oh,
cool,
cool.
it's huge. So like, here we go. Here's a selfie of me with the rocket in the
Oh my
background.
gosh.
It's huge. It's giant.
Wow.
And it's very, very cool. And what I didn't realize until I was here, there are three Saturn V rockets that are on display anywhere, that like are still like more, not like together, but basically together so you can see all the parts, all the stages. And this is the only one where all of the parts were cleared for flight. They didn't actually fly. They were from Apollo missions that never actually launched, like I think
Wow.
Apollo 18 or something like that, that never actually happened. Um, but there's three of them on display, and I've now seen all three of them.
Where are the other ones?
One of them's in Florida, Cape.
Okay.
What is that? Cape Canaveral, I think, is the one in
Canaveral.
Florida. Yep.
Yeah.
And so there's one there, and then there's one at, I don't remember what they call it, but at in Huntsville, Alabama. I have an aunt
Oh
and
my
uncle that
gosh.
live out there, and they took me to see all that stuff when I went to visit them several years ago. So
That's so cool.
yeah, it was cool. I wasn't
That's
part
like
of my
a fun
plan, but that was
little
cool.
checklist in its own little way.
Yeah,
That's fun. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So that was
Nice.
my adventure. How was your road trip, Cheryl?
My road trip was really good. It was successful. Like it was what I wanted it to be, and everything
Nice.
worked out logistics wise. And like I kind of packed it full a little bit. So it was one of those things where we came home and it was like, I need a vacation from my vacation. It was classic
Hmm.
that. But pretty
Classic
much what,
Cheryl.
yeah, yes, this was much more classic Cheryl, and yet Daryl was a part of it and was an absolute
Yeah.
trooper, and also was the one who suggested we do this trip. So, but very much for me. So this started with a couple things. We have been talking about wanting to take Jack to Universal Studios. That's been a thing. Is like
That's
sometime is
right.
like childhood. We thought that would
Yeah.
be fun.
Yeah.
He loves Harry Potter. He loves Mario. He's never been
Hmm.
to a theme park before. I don't know
Right,
of
because
any
you weren't sure
kind.
that he wanted to go to a theme
Uh-huh.
park. You talked
Yes.
about taking him to Disneyland, but he wasn't really interested
No.
because all
Yeah.
the people and the crowds, and
Yeah.
he
And
wasn't
just
super
like
into Disney,
themes
right?
and stuff, like he's not really into Disney. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so um he had never even heard of Universal Studios, but Daryl and I were like, I bet he'd
Oh,
like it. And I bet
yeah.
the themes would like triumph over crowds or stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
like the enjoyment
Mm-hmm.
of the themes. So we've been wanting to do that. So I kept kind of having his spring break of this year in my mind as good timing for it, but was like, maybe that could be cool. Um, and then I have, so all my parents are both from California. And so all of my
Mm-hmm.
extended family are kind of spread out throughout the state. And
Mm-hmm.
we got married now 4.5 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
my extended family, most of them have only met Daryl and Jack at our wedding.
Mm.
Some of them met Daryl when we were engaged at one point when we were down there for my friend Beth's wedding. Um,
Yeah.
but so, and as far as I'm concerned, meeting someone at your own wedding does not count as meeting them. Especially with
No.
Jack too, they're like, "Oh, we met you at the
Yeah.
wedding," and it's like he barely remembers that day, much less the random
Yeah.
strangers who said hello to him. And so,
Yeah.
so we were kind of wanting an opportunity for like Jack to get to know my family, Daryl to get to know my family. I have a couple family members who are like have gone through health stuff and are doing well now. So that was like,
Mm.
let's go visit. And yay, it's
Mm-hmm.
great that they're on recovering. And then my grandma's getting older. And so I was like, it'd be good to visit her again. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so we kind of crafted that around like I started with like, oh, we'll just go to LA and see my LA family and do stuff
Mm-hmm.
down there. And then we were like get tickets and we're like, you know what? Actually, we'd love to also go to Sacramento because I have a lot of family there. And then we'll just
Mm.
road trip it up because this is not an amazing time to buy plane tickets. So we
Yeah.
and with 3 people versus 1 person is like, well, if you do a
Mm-hmm.
car and hotels, you're still paying like the same amount if it's 3 people or 1 person. And when you do
Mm.
plane tickets and it's more people, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, this is this price times 3, which is
Yeah.
definitely a difference when you're
Yeah.
traveling with a family. And so so anyway, we took off Friday night and made it to like mid Oregon because we were like, let's just
Mm-hmm.
get some of the traveling in because we wanted
Did
to
you
get to
just go down
Sacramento.
I-5? Like
Yeah.
just straight down?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
because we wanted to get to Sacramento by Saturday, like dinner time
Oh,
ideally.
okay.
And so we
Okay.
were like, let's just get some of it done on Friday night. So
Mm-hmm.
we just headed out of town and that was great and really helped and everything. And traffic was not terrible either. So we got like a little south of Eugene and then did the rest of the driving.
Mm.
So we were
Mm-hmm.
in Sacramento the first weekend. Nothing to note as far as like anything to visit because we just did like spend time with family and
Family
saw a lot of
stuff.
family there.
Yeah.
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 And then we were there on Sunday, headed down on Monday to LA. And so around mid morning at some point, we're like, oh, this is the eclipse time. But we're in California. So obviously it was just like, I don't know, maybe it got darker at some point. We didn't notice. So, but I was thinking about
Yeah.
you. And I was thinking like, oh, yeah, Brand's seeing the eclipse in Texas right now.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, so just drove down to LA and then I have family in LA that we stayed with down there. But, so it was great to spend time with them. I went to college down there, so that was my family that I spent like
Right.
a ton of time with when I was in
Yeah.
college. So that was really special. But as far as like things to note, so we did go to Universal the next day.
Okay.
I bought tickets online in advance. They have a little bit of a
Yep.
better price.
Yeah.
And then you can do our early admission to the Mario section.
Yes. Yes. So
Yeah.
did you do that?
We did. Yeah. I was like, you know what? If we're there for
Okay.
Mario, and also our goal was not to stay there until it closed. Our goal, actually, we were going to go see friend of the show, Beth, that evening for dinner.
Yes.
So we were like, we want to
Okay.
get there as early as we possibly can and then just do whatever until like, honestly, we left at 3 and we were totally
Okay.
satisfied. We were like, cool, we
Okay.
did what we wanted to do here. So we like got there right at 8 when you could do that early thing and just like
Yep.
headed on in and you have to walk through the
How
entire
crowded
park.
was
Not
it?
at all. That time of day, it
Okay.
just was like there were people, but it did not feel at all
Even in
crowded.
Mario Land.
There were definitely more people there by the time we were like getting off the ride and stuff. It was like, oh, there's people around now, but it still
Oh,
was
so you
not
got
like
to do the Mario Kart ride. How was it?
So we the funny thing is you're familiar with Universal Hollywood?
I mean, I've watched lots of YouTube videos,
Oh, okay,
but
okay,
I've
okay.
never been
So
there.
it's all on a hill. So it's
Okay.
very different feeling than Disneyland or other theme parks in the sense of
Mm.
there's like sections that are divided by escalators. So there's more like an
Oh.
upper area and a lower
Mm-hmm.
area with like
Okay.
several escalators to get down there. So
Mm-hmm.
the Mario is at the farthest from the entrance down all the
Of course it
escalators.
is. Of
And
course
so
it
it's so
is.
funny because you're like, oh my gosh, we're here at 8 early admission. And then we're like, now we walk past all the closed areas to like
Mm.
try to get there. But I was like, I've heard this because I've heard there's only one ride and the
Mm-hmm.
whole, and so then it was like, okay, well then we should go there very first because the line's just going to get longer throughout the day. And I've
Right.
experienced those like 90-minute waits at Disneyland before, things like that. So I was
Yep.
like, we're doing that. It was such a short line that I almost wish it was longer because
Oh.
it's such a cool design. And you know how they do everything with like the whole line experience is really part
Oh
of your experience.
yeah.
And we actually realized because at first we were kind of walking quickly through the start of it and we were like, hang
Mm-hmm.
on, let's enjoy these things. So we even a couple times like
Mm.
let other people walk past us or like just tried
Yeah.
to walk slow because we were like, the design in all of these different rooms was so cool. And we were like, let's like
Mm.
take a second. And so it was really fun just seeing like they did such a good job. You're going like in this castle to enter it, like Bowser's castle. And then
Mm-hmm.
like all the rooms are so cool. And so that was really fun seeing all like that design. We almost played with like, do we want to come back again just to like get to like watch all this stuff? But then we ended up doing enough other things during the day that we
Mm-hmm.
didn't. But totally could have. And so then you put on these like you put on a Mario hat. Everyone gets a Mario hat. And it was really smart. I've gone to Disneyland so many times and gone on,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting because you can see like the time periods that different rides were developed. For example, like the Peter
Mm.
Pan ride, the line is so long, and it's so long, honestly, because the loading process. But then you go on
Mm-hmm.
other rides where they're like, oh, it's loading, and there's a conveyor belt, or like they've like figured out
Right.
better loading ways.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting because it's this Mario Kart thing has like this VR glasses component,
Yeah.
but you get your Mario hat well before you're on the car. So you've already adjusted
Mm.
it. And then when you
Mm-hmm.
get in, your VR goggles click into the hat. So you're not fitting your VR goggles on your
Oh.
head as the ride is taking off. You've already
Oh,
fit
that's
the
really
hat on your
smart.
head. I'll show you a picture actually.
Yeah.
This is what you can see of like
Whoa.
the land from above as you're coming down
Oh,
the
cool.
escalator. So
Oh,
you could like
that's so
see it long
fun.
before you got there. So it's so fun. You can see like the pyramids and the castle, like all these details.
Yeah. Oh, and it's
They
so
did such a
colorful
good job with all
too.
the details. Yeah. Here's a staged photo of my family. I told them to look annoyed and bored. Uh,
On the escalator.
yes. And I'm pumped. And then you like
Sounds
walk
right.
through the pipe to get in, which is really fun. You go in like, and there's like the castle, kind of like the N from the N64
Mm.
Mario game a little bit. There's a part of the line that's like Yoshi's story, and I love Yoshi's story. So it's like that pastel-y
Mm.
thing and all the flowers, which was really fun. Um, yeah, honestly, like it's just all the design was really cool. This was like this table with like a piranha plant on
Oh,
it and all these
wow.
like big like pinboard thing. There were just so many fun
That's
elements.
so cool.
So here's us with our really super cool Mario hats. So you can see it's like a
Oh, okay.
plastic hat and then it
Yeah.
adjusts in the back. And then there's like this
Okay.
piece over your forehead that you don't understand. But then you just
Uh-huh.
clip in the VR goggles onto that piece. So it was so
Mm.
easy. So that was really cool. I also turned to Daryl and I was like, I can promise you 100% that they had a design meeting and that I bet their plan A was that all these hats were the different characters. And then there was probably a whole conversation about then there's going to be hard because then if someone was a certain character, blah, blah. And that I was like, I'm so convinced after having like sat in various types of design meetings. I'm like,
Yeah.
I would bet that with anything. But again, that's where
Yeah.
my brain
No,
goes.
that makes sense. Yeah.
And then this is what the loading area looks like. So you can see like it looks
Mm.
kind of like a Mario Kart, but there's 4 people on one, and the 2 in the
Mm-hmm.
back have a higher seat, I think, for
Oh,
visibility.
interesting. Okay,
And
yeah.
then yeah, pretty much you're seeing like physical, I don't have photos on it obviously, but you're seeing like all these physical things in front of you, plus your VR goggles are like an overlay. So it's a fun
Mm.
combination of like you're driving through these physical spaces with really fun design, and then also seeing like the bad guys on your screen that you're like
So it's
shooting stuff at.
augmented reality as opposed to virtual reality then.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
It was very fun design. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like they have you like spin out at different points or get inked or like different things.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
Jack thought like we didn't do a good job. And we were like, oh, I think some of those things were just supposed to happen. I like, you know what I mean? And so that was
Mm.
really interesting. And then you end
Mm-hmm.
up, each person gets how many points they got at the end, which
Oh,
is
so
really
it's one
fun.
of those where you can like compete and like do things while you're doing
Yes.
it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then if you get the band, like the bracelet, you
Oh,
scan
yep.
it as you enter the ride, and then I'm guessing it stays linked to your account or whatever,
Yeah.
so that you could like track it or whatever.
Okay.
So we gave
Okay.
Jack the choice. We said we will either get you a wristband or a wand. And
Oh, okay.
I was convinced he was going to get a wristband because he cares more about Mario than he does Harry Potter. And even before we got there the night before, he was like, "I want a wand," and he was like a little unsure though. So I like was like, "Okay, I don't want to give you spoilers, but do you want me to like do a little bit of searching online and like tell you some pros and cons or like describe it?" So I did, and he was like, "Yep, I
Mm-hmm.
want a wand." And I was like, "Okay, great, cool, we'll get you
Oh.
one." So we ended up spending less time in the Mario area because honestly, you do the ride and then you look around you and then you're like, I guess we did all the things in this land. And so because it's like,
Because everything else requires the wristband.
yeah, there's all these like mini games, but they all require the
Mm-hmm.
wristband. You can meet the characters. Jack didn't
Mm-hmm.
care about that, and I didn't want to like force him to do something like that. So we
Yeah.
spent some time like standing there. For example, like, look, we spotted the Pikmin, and Jack and I love Pikmin. So it was fun to like find these little like Easter eggs and stuff. So we did stand there and look around, went in the gift shop. Jack got this really dorky Yoshi headband that's like Yoshi sitting on your head that he was so happy with. And I remember when I was a kid, my family went to Universal Studios and I got a Woody Woodpecker hat that had the little like plume on top. So
Oh,
I feel
yep.
it. But yeah, so like we took some fun pictures of him like pounding the little question box or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, like then we were like, okay, I think we're gonna head on now at this point. And so because it is small, and I'd heard it was small. You
Mm-hmm.
can go to the Toads Cafe, you can get reservations for in person the day of, I believe is how it
Mm-hmm.
works. And we were there with early entrance, and it was sold, it was reserved up by the time we looked at the sign. But
Okay.
had already decided probably we weren't interested anyway, because we had read some stuff online about how even with your reservation, it is more of like a counter service space, and the line is still super long. So some people were saying it took like several hours of their day.
Oh,
and
geez.
and so it was like maybe just looking at the cute pictures online of because the food is
Mm-hmm.
darling looking. I mean, you've seen videos and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, so it looks really fun. But we were like, had already kind of decided like maybe we're good. And also we were reading like best places to eat in Universal, and nobody was saying it was like good food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we headed to Harry Potter. This is my second
Mm-hmm.
time in the Harry Potter area. I went there
Oh,
5 years
okay.
ago, and just I love Harry Potter. Like and the movies are just so, it really feels like you're just in the story and everything. It was so
That's
fun. And
cool.
so we went in the Three Broomsticks, and we actually got breakfast there because we had eaten early in the morning,
Oh,
but we were hungry again. And so we got this like delicious breakfast, and it was like you can see like look at how many people are there at that
like
time of
none.
day.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And actually I'm going to tell you, all day the longest line we waited in was maybe 20 minutes. So like,
Really?
yeah. And
Wow, that's
it
great.
wasn't wildly crowded anywhere. There were people there, but like it did not feel crazy crowded. So that was really cool.
That's great.
You can like take a picture with the conductor of the Hogwarts
Mm-hmm.
Express. So that's fun. You can get butter beer, which Jack and I did. And then Jack got his wand. And the really fun thing with the wand that I didn't know about and didn't do last time is you can go in this like Ollivanders. I don't know what they call it. I'm going to call it maybe the Ollivanders experience. Oh.
Okay.
And what you do is they like load in groups at a time, and it's like a little mini skit in a way
Mm-hmm.
where like you're like in this room, and then like this man with this amazing accent is like, welcome to Ollivanders, and then like chooses a child from the crowd and pretty much does like the story from Harry Potter in a way of like tries one wand and then it like is supposed to make it rain, but then instead like it makes it like thunder and lightning, and he's like, oh no, that's the wrong one, and then he's like supposed to like water
Mm.
plants, and then the plants wilt, and so he's like, not that one. And then he gives him another one, and a fan. It's like this cute little boy he picked. A fan blows on him, and light shines on him, and music plays.
Oh my gosh.
Like in the movie where it's like,
Yeah.
oh. It's so, it was funny. I was like really enjoying that. And then they like let you go into the shop where there's like a ton of wands. There's like wands from all these different characters, a lot of
Yeah.
characters, or just like, here's an elm one, here's this kind and everything. And so,
Mm.
and it was funny because Jack was really happy they didn't choose him. And then
Oh,
also it was
okay.
funny because he was like, oh, so that boy gets a free one and then we can buy one. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. He did not get a free one. Did you notice at the end they hand it to like the sales associate and they're like, if essentially like if you want to buy this, you may go purchase this, but which
Yeah.
makes more sense. And then there's all these windows, and you stand on a spot on the ground that has like a little symbol on it and has a symbol for the shape of the spell you're supposed to do. So each one has a different
Okay.
spell. And so you do like whatever the little swish and flick or whatever the shape of it is at something,
Mm.
and then things happen in the windows if you do it correctly. And it's a little tricky.
Mm.
So like these teacups, there's one spell to make them like spin in circles, and then one to make them stop.
Okay.
Or there's like a tailor's shop where like you can make like the tape measure go down and up, these different things. Oh, I think I took
Oh, that's fun.
video of this one. So it takes Jack a couple tries. You can see like he's trying.
Yeah.
Oh, and it makes the music box play and these little
Oh,
things spin
yeah.
around.
That's cool.
But he had a blast with it. This was like,
Yeah.
he really liked it. He did each one at least twice after he like got the hang of it
Oh,
and
okay.
stuff. And then it's a lot bigger of an area than the Mario area, but small enough
Mm.
that we went and like sat on some benches, and he just went like and did some of them again nearby and everything. And then it
Mm-hmm.
was so sweet because he was like helping other kids do it.
Oh.
I know. And I was like very proud parent moment of just like, it was really cute because there were some kids struggling, and he would just kind of come up and show them how to do it and everything. So that was really fun. Yeah, we went on the rides there. We went on the Jurassic World ride.
Oh, the dress. Isn't that one that has like the huge drop and like the scary
Yeah.
like dinosaur?
Ooh,
And Jack
that
liked
was a
it?
little yes, he was freaked out about the drop, and then at the end of the day said that was his favorite ride. So, but he
Oh,
hadn't gone on
great.
rides before, I don't think. So we went on
Mm.
like the not the hippogriff ride is a very like
Oh, okay.
traditional roller coaster, not like
Uh-huh.
massive drop roller coaster, but just one that like spins and goes fast. He hated that. But then like
Oh,
the
interesting.
other big Harry Potter ride, that's like a dark ride, he
Uh-huh.
loved. He thought that was really fun. Thought it was scary, but
Okay.
like fun too. We went on like this Minions thing in Secret Life of Pets thing in different sections.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it was great. We had a great, and we left by 3, and we were like happy. We were just like, that was great. We're good to go. There was
Yeah.
more we could have done, but didn't feel like we missed out. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. Yeah, so that was probably the most like touristy thing we did. We went to the beach another day. We went to Huntington Beach.
Mm-hmm.
I love Huntington Beach. It's a classic. It was very fun taking a Seattle boy there because he wore long pants and a hoodie, and I was like, hold on, you should be wearing shorts. But he loves the beach, but like pictures beaches up here, right? So like didn't think he'd want to be in
Yeah.
the ocean. And then he and I like got in the ocean, and he loved it, and he dug a big hole, all that stuff. So that was fun. And then other than that, we just spent a lot of time with family and some
Yeah.
friends too. And then on our way back up, we went to the redwoods. So there's
Uh-huh.
various redwoods, and it's funny because I think in up here when you say I'm going to the redwoods, people are like, cool. And then everyone we saw in California, we said we're going to the redwoods, and they said, which one? because there's the
Mm.
coastal redwoods and then like the sequoia, like the giant sequoia. So the coastal ones are the tallest trees in the world, and then the sequoia ones are the widest trees.
Mm.
So they're like, or like bigger by volume, I believe. So we went to the coastal ones. So we got ourselves to Eureka the night before we were going to be there.
Mm.
So we were like there and ready
Mm-hmm.
to go. And
Yeah.
we saw some elk in the forest. We went, kind of drove through like the
Cool.
national park and everything. And then Ryan, we went to the Trees of Mystery.
Yay, I'm so glad.
Yes.
This is like full circle because you introduced that to me early on in the podcast. And then when
Yes.
Kyla and I did a trip, we went to the Trees of Mystery.
Yes.
And now you went back and now you get to share about it as a recent thing. Look, it's
Uh-huh.
Paul.
There's Paul Bunyan. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You know what's funny is it looks even bigger in this picture because I had Jack stand under his foot, and so like this angle and
Yeah.
everything makes Jack look even
That's hilarious.
teeny tiny. Yeah. So we went there and I was just excited. Like I told Jack all about it and he knew about how my family thinks it's hilarious and I've gone there before
Mhm.
and blah, 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 all this stuff. And then we went and I was like, well, let's go see Paul Bunyan, go in the gift shop. And then Daryl was like, I mean, we can go in. And I was like, we can. So 'cause I was like, I didn't want to like force them on it.
Yeah.
But there was something. Okay. What year did you go?
Oh gosh, I don't
Okay.
remember.
Hold on. Did you go pre or post COVID? That's what I care about.
Pre-COVID?
Okay.
Pre-COVID.
There is a new thing there that they added in 2020
Okay.
that I was like, I don't remember this. And Daryl was like, it was probably there. And I texted my sister and her husband and they were like, we don't remember that. And we looked it up and it came in 2020. They added these sky bridges. Look at how
Oh,
cool this is.
cool. No, there
Yeah.
were no sky bridges when I went.
Yeah. And the
That's
entrance
super
to it is just like
cool.
a staircase. And it was right next to the path and everything I saw. And I remember seeing everything there because I even told my family. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a thing. So yeah, there's new.
It's
They actually
almost
opened them right
like
before COVID.
Endor, like with
Well,
the
yeah.
Ewoks.
Yes. And then look who is here though. There was
Oh my gosh.
a little Yoda that said that may the forest be with you.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So right when you
That
get
is
up in it
awesome.
is that, but they were suspension bridges. So Jack was scared because they move
Yeah.
when you go on them.
Oh,
So
uh-huh.
like it was a bunch of them. It was very cool. I was like, this is a great addition. I mean, it was just really
That's
fun
cool.
being up in the
Yeah.
trees and everything. It felt
Yeah, your
super
pictures don't make it
safe.
look super crowded either. Not a lot of
No,
people.
it wasn't super crowded. It was great. We went and saw like the massive, massive tree there. And then we went in the sky gondola. So that
Yep.
was really fun. And yeah, I mean, you can see like there were other people around, but nothing
Mm-hmm.
major.
Yeah.
And then we went, of course, to the Trail of Tales and saw all the wood
Oh,
carvings about Paul
those are so
Bunyan.
weird.
And it's so weird. I took
So
a picture with Daryl at the I Love You one that I took a picture with my dog Gracie in front of with me
Mm.
kissing her in 2016. So I was like, this is hilarious. So he purposely made a very annoyed face. Yeah. So that was it was so fun going to the Trees of Mystery again. And honestly,
Oh,
like
that's great.
we went and did some like drives too. Like I tried to look up some scenic roads just to get off of the highway and like onto some. So we just went through some
Mm.
scenic roads and stuff. But
Yeah.
it's honestly like as funny as I think the Trees of Mystery are. It was like this is just kind of a nice way to like get out and be on a path in the trees,
Yeah.
see some cool trees, be in the redwoods, but like it actually is like a cool experience, I would say. And I love a sky
Yeah.
gondola. I know you've been on cooler ones, but still like this one, it's like,
Yeah.
it is really fun being up into the trees. And
Yeah.
so I stand behind it as like, actually it's a very cool tourist experience, I would say.
That's
So,
awesome. Well, okay,
yeah.
so Cheryl, I have a question for
Yes.
you.
Oh, I didn't ask you this question.
If you could take me with you for one part of your trip, what would it be and why?
Ooh, I mean, I think I would have to take you to the Mario Land because you are
Yeah.
so happy about it, but you haven't gone yourself. So it'd be so fun to
Not
take
yet.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Because you are fine with Harry Potter, right? But you're not
I
like,
enjoy Harry Potter.
Okay.
I've read all the books multiple times.
Okay. Well, then I would just take you to
Yeah.
Universal. We just do the
Okay.
Universal day together. Yeah. If you
Great.
would like the Jurassic World thing and you'd like the Harry
Yeah.
Potter thing, you
Yeah.
could watch Jack use the wand, even if you don't want to get your own because they're expensive. You know, you can like watch a kid do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Perfect.
would totally take you to Universal. Yeah. Absolutely. How
Cool.
about you, Ryan? If you could take me to just one part of your trip, what would it be and why?
I mean, that's so easy. I would take you to totality. I would let you see the total solar eclipse because
Amazing.
it's amazing. And I think everybody should see it because it's amazing. And I know I keep just saying the same thing. It's so hard to describe because you see pictures like, oh, that's a cool picture. Like when the actual experience is so much more, I mean, like emotional really
Hmm.
than anything else. It's so cool. That's definitely what I would do. It's definitely what I would do.
Love that.
Okay, Cheryl,
Yes.
what's your next trip?
Oh my gosh. I feel like on our last episode we talked a little bit about I might be going to Alaska in August. Did we talk about this?
It doesn't sound familiar.
I know we talked about I'm trying to do a redo trip in
Yes.
December. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
Our church is doing a mission trip up to Alaska
Oh,
in
yes. And I don't remember if you
August.
talked about it in the podcast or just you and I talked about it, but
I'm
yes, you
not
did
sure.
mention that.
But we
Yeah.
don't know yet. We know it's happening, but we're gonna go like an informational meeting about it soon. And see,
Mm-hmm.
it'd be like a volunteer trip to do some just like work up for a nonprofit
Yeah.
that's up there. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we'll see. But that would be cool. Daryl's never been to Alaska, and I've only been one time, and I'm convinced
Mm-hmm.
he wants to live there. I mean, I think he's convinced he wants to live there, but
I mean,
it'd
I
be
could
fun
see
to,
Daryl wanting to live there.
right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but it'd be cool to go and support and serve and everything. And then it would be a really cool location to go to as well. So I think
Yeah.
that's probably the next trip. I might get to
Okay.
travel for work a little bit coming up, and I might be
Oh.
going to Austin and Nashville occasionally though. So that's exciting because
Oh, okay.
I've never been to Austin before. So that would be cool too.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
could say hi to the Boscolos while you're there.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And maybe there will be an eclipse when I'm there. Is that how it works?
No.
Oh, okay, dang it. How about you, Ryan? Tell me about your next trip.
Uh, well, I think my next trip, at least that I have planned, is to the Canary Islands in June.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm
Oh
taking
my
students,
gosh.
but I think that's my next one.
That's
Yeah,
so
is
cool.
Canary Islands. So I get to go to Madrid before that,
Mm.
and then we'll fly down to the Canaries.
So you get to have churros and chocolate and then fly down to the Canaries.
So there's a thing that you do with the tour company that I work with that does these student trips where you fill out information for your tour manager, who's the one who kind of like is with you 24/7 and takes you around to all the places. And so they have several questions like, well, what are things you're interested in doing and focusing on? And like, what are things you want your tour manager to know? And I definitely put that I want to have churros and chocolate and we need to make
Yay!
that happen.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I have a friend who just went there a couple days ago. She was
Oh,
posting
yeah.
about it, and I was like, I know that place. Yes, I love that.
So
Churros
do I
and
need to
chocolate.
go to the place
I
or
think
just any
so.
place that has them?
No, I think you need to go to the place. I
Yeah.
think it'd be like getting a beignet in New Orleans at well, now I'm forgetting the name, but there's
Y-
like the place where you get the
Yeah, I
beignets. I think
know.
it's like that.
I'm sure it is like that, but I don't know that I would care in New Orleans either.
I still think you should go. It's just like, I mean, it's a tiny hole in the wall, and you just go eat like in this like
Yeah.
outdoor seating or whatever. But it's like they're pretty efficient. They know what they're doing. It's like the only thing on
Yeah.
the menu is like how many do you want, essentially. But it's fun to like see
12.
the machine, the
Mm,
big machine, because it does it like in
yeah.
a spiral and everything. Yeah, I think you got to go there. I mean, it's also
Okay.
like it's not hard to get there. It's not like way out of the way or
Okay.
anything. So
Yeah.
it would be easy to get
I just
there.
wasn't sure if like it basically tastes the same at this place or this
Oh,
place or
I
that
have
place,
no
but the
idea
line at
about
this place is really,
taste.
really long.
I don't know, but I
So
think you should go. I mean, it was from the 1800s. I mean, that's really cool.
that is
So
cool.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Hopefully it'll happen.
Yay. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't believe like within less than 12 months, you're going to Spain twice.
I know,
It's
isn't
really
that crazy?
cool. I love
Having
that.
never gone in my life, and then
Yes.
I go twice in less than 12 months. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is a little crazy.
I love that for different reasons too, but same company, I guess. But yeah.
Same company, but yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Well, when we take those trips, we will have to come back and jump back in to share about our
Yeah.
experiences and everything and keep dreaming and talking about what's to come next.
That sounds like a great plan. It was fun talking about travel. Thanks for listening along with us.
Thanks to Beth Reed Miller for her artwork. You can check out more of Beth's artwork at Beth Is Something. And thank you to Erica Corbin for the use of her song Round the Globe. You can listen to Erica's music wherever music is sold or streamed.
Until next time, remember to take me with you.
Take me with you.
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above, and a lot of love. Oh, the world is out there waiting to explore, and all our troubles here want them